Hola a todos, I am Joan Espinal from Medellin, Colombia. I am one of the eco developers and I'll be doing some streams every week to show some of the eco features that we have been working on. So the idea on every stream is to have another developer as our guest. Right now with us is another developer. His name is Jordan. Jordan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I am Jordan. Some people in the community may know me as the Test Game or Test. I do a lot of the tech and behind the scenes kind of stuff for Eco as well as the mod kit.
Nice. Well, that was Jordan, and yeah, he's like the expert of the mods. So, so feel free to ask questions that we will be checking at the end of the stream. So first, let's talk what this stream is about. So the idea is that we are going to have streams every week to show some features that are already implemented, but that maybe you are not aware of them, and also to talk about the features that we are working on. And here comes a first really important disclaimer, and it is that it is really important for us that you understand that the things that we are working on not necessarily are going to be on the game. So it depends. I mean, there is no. It, let me explain. We every time that we implement a feature, we do something called an internal playtest. What is that? Well, basically, all the developers play the game. We join a server as players, and then we test the servers, but in the perspective of a player. So based on that, we may decide if the feature is worth to keeping or if maybe it goes against the gameplay, maybe it is too confusing, and well, also some technical things like maybe it affects the performance too much, stuff like that. So what we are going to see that is work in progress is not always going to be included in the game, but we hope that it is included in the game. Also, for about these streams, we are going to have different streams. We are going to have some more focus on gameplay design. So feel free to join those and ask whatever you want to ask or comment about our gameplay. Now, even more important than to talk about the features and the gameplay, we would like that these streams become a space where we can talk to the community, where we can hear the questions that you have, the comments that you have, know what you think about the features that we have been working, know what you think about the gameplay decisions that we have been making, and also we are open to hear ideas about what expectations do you have about these streams. Let us know what do you like to see in the streams, and we can make plans for the next streams. Disclaimer is that this is my first stream, and as you can imagine, my main language is Spanish. So we may have technical issues. I mean, we have issues because when for my first stream, we may have issues with OBS or I don't know, whatever. And second, I am quite aware that my English is way too far from perfect and sometimes may be hard to understand me. So feel free to use the chat when you don't understand something. And and yeah, well, the idea is that everything is as clear as possible. We'll try to check the chat to help when something is not clear. Well, now that we are done with the disclaimers, let's talk about the features. I would like to start with a feature that I've been working on, and it's a feature that I have been working on with John, our CEO. It's a work in progress. That's really important to clarify. Taking is that when you join a server, you are going to see the minimap first. So once you start a server, the first stuff that you are going to see is the minimap. And what we see here is some potential initial points where you can start the game. I mean, it depends on every player, but for example, every time that I start the game in a random position, I will always check the map and try to find something that is close to a forest, but also close to with the energy and stuff like that. So I have to walk all the way to that place. But on now is that as a player and based on based on the decisions that we usually make, we select a initial point that fits you better. So for example, we have here some great icons. The idea is that this means that these places are close to wild animal. So you usually focus more on hunting in these places for you to start. You also have different spots like the green ones, for example, I mean that is close to the forest. It'd be nice if you like to work with wood, for example. And we also have please give me a second. As I think I'm having some issues with the audio as I hear on the. Oh, yeah. I think that my microphone is just too far, and I have that like noise reduction feature enabled. Uh, and and sometimes I imagine that I speak so low that it recognizes it as a noise. I imagine. Uh, okay, sorry about that. A little recap. So we have some initial points. You can select your initial point based on what fits you better. For example, if you are usually into farming, these like orange spots are going to be places that are like real plain where you can start your farms with less issues. Green indicates that we are going to be close to a forest when you start. And we also have the red ones for wild food. Now, here we don't have any settlement yet. I mean, I know that not everyone is aware about settlements, but settlements is a new feature that we have been working on. I won't do a lot of spoilers about that feature because it's a feature that is going to have its own stream and its own demo. So let's just think of settlements like cities or countries, but let's say cities. So imagine that you join a server that has already started. They already have that cities. They have different cities around the world. Each city may have its own rules, its own preference for new players, and based on that, you could basically start like, yeah, I want to start near the forest, or no, I would like to start in a settlement. So settlements should also be available here. But as I mentioned, we were going to talk more about that feature later. So right now, let's start in a place where I actually would start as a player. I prefer to start, as I mentioned, close to the water and close to the forest. I'm almost sure that I saw a point like that. Ah, yeah, this would be a good place for me, for example, to start. So I just press this over here, and well, player is going to start that supposedly. Oh, yeah, that was definitely not supposed to happen. Sorry about that. Technical issue. So as I mentioned, this is the develop branch. For a little more information, we have isolated the project in different like branches. So we have the one that you play on Steam that is supposed to be bug free, and we have one when we work all the features, and the new features sometimes have issues. So that's why that's isolated from the game. And yeah, I tested a bunch of times before the stream and never crashed, but yeah, that's always something that may happen. It'll be, of course, be fixed before the before we launch it into the game. So about the starting points, we have an initial questions and an initial question, and it's if the start point is defined by the admin. So how it works right now is that those initial points that we saw, let me show it again with another account because this one really is his book. So what happens is that the server use an algorithm called clustering. So the clustering algorithm automatically select those initial points, but it will also take into consideration the settlements that already exist on the game. So the server takes some points that they were automatically selected by the server, but we'll also consider the already existing cities. But we can talk about that. For example, as as an admin, do you think that it should be defined by the admins, or do you prefer that is a feature that is selected automatically, or do you want like a mixture? Like I want to have the option to place them myself, to remove some points, because I can see based on that question, I can see like some useful scenarios where you would like to select the points. I'm going to log with a random account. So for example, I imagine that if I am the admin and I know that, that I'd like to have more farmers on the game, I could remove some initial points. Like, I know I don't want people starting the forest. We already have a lot of people working there. So maybe I'm going to move the points so new players start here. I think that that could be interesting. It's not how it works now. It's not how it's planned. But yeah, feel free to comment about that feature. So as I mentioned, we can improve based on the feedback. So here we are again. Let's hope it doesn't crash again. And let's select random point. And yeah, here now it works. So yeah, once you select the point, you're going to start on that point. And as it mentioned, for example, this is a point close to wild food, so I should already see some wild animals here. Nice place to start if you're into hunting. So I'll talk now about the second feature. I'm sorry about the book and the first one. Yeah, that stuff happens sometimes for us developers, and we of course work on that before the launch. So for the second feature, there is one feature that is already implemented, but I'm not sure if a lot of people is aware of that. It's a feature that I implemented and that I really liked, and it is the AFK system. So what is an AFK system? Is basically a system that checks when players are inactive after some period of time, and they basically kick them out of the server. It is important because, as you can imagine, the performance on the server depends on the amount of people you have. If you have less people, well, the server will perform better. And it makes no sense to have people that haven't been active in a while. I mean, that player is been there for 3 hours and hasn't done or write anything. So why do I need to have it in my server right now? I can kick him, and once he come back to the computer, he just needs to log in again. I mean, it's really easy. Just give me a second. To enable this feature, on the server, you will see these two parameters. The first one is time required for AFK. It means how many time do you need in minutes to consider that someone is inactive. So if the value is 0, or you can even use a negative value, it means that you don't want this feature on your server. Like yeah, I don't mind if people are inactive, so I'm just going to leave it in 0. If you change it, for example, by 60, it means that after 1 hour, a player that hasn't moved at all, that hasn't moved the mouse or the keyboard, will be considered inactive and will be kicked from the server. Of course, he will get a warning. I mean, he will get a pop-up warning, and he can move like, oh yeah, I don't want to be kicked out, and well, he can move the mouse or keyboard or anything, and he will be considered again as an active player and won't be kicked. This works with minutes, so 60 would mean an hour, one would be 1 minute, and you can even use decimals. I don't think that's a good idea because it would be like too little time, but I'll do it right now for the test. So I have my player here, and I'm going to use 0.1, meaning 6 seconds. So if after 6 seconds I am inactive, I should get a pop-up with a warning. Here it is. And the warning has like a countdown. If I don't move after 10 seconds, then I'll be kicked off the server. But if I move the mouse or I move the keyboard, then I'll be on the server again. Uh, I'm sorry, do a small pause about the feature I'm talking about right now. That is the AFK system. Let's use a bigger value here because I don't want to get kicked by all talk. To answer a different question that we have. So we have a question about the last feature that I was talking about, initial spawn point. Uh, it says if a few people have already built in forest area, well, it then still show that spot as a good forest spot. That's a good question. I mean, right now we haven't done a lot of testing on this feature because it's extremely new. I mean, it's like a feature that we start working on for a couple of weeks basically. Right now, the server takes the spots automatically based on the layers. I'm not sure how updated they are at the moment the points are created, because I have the idea that they are created at the beginning. I mean, when the server starts, but it's not updated based on the time. But that's actually something really important to take into consideration. We can check that, because if the points are defined when the server is created, and of course the game change or when the time passes, those spots that we initially defined may not be as good as we'd like. So that's a really good question, and we will really look into that to check if those points keep being valid. I mean, it would be awful to start, yeah, I want to start in this forest, you start, and now it's a city because the forest is gone for a while. So yeah, no, that's a nice question slash comment that we will take into consideration. Thanks for that. So going back to the feature I'm talking about right now, and also feel free to ask questions about this AFK system feature. So as I mentioned, this would be the time required. If you don't want to use the feature, remember that you can just set it in 0. It's actually the default value. So if you just start the server, the default value is 0, and it won't be, you won't have any AFK kick. Also, for admins, it's important to note that they are not part of the AFK system. I mean, if you are the admin of the server, you can be inactive and you will never be kicked off the system. Also, we have another parameter here that is important for this feature, and it is the required occupancy before the FK system is active. The default value is 0. It means that it doesn't matter if you have people connected on the server or if you just have 3 people connected on the server. Once a player is inactive, it will be kicked. That's what zero means. It doesn't matter the occupancy. You will just use the system no matter what. But you can also change this value. For example, I can say, now I just want that when my server reaches 50% of the occupancy, the system is enabled. So let's imagine that we have a server that has uh, 60 default spots. So once you reach 30 players, the system will be active. Before that, it will have. It is important to understand that these final network configuration. For example, if we the, please give me a second while I check some. Because it seems like I'm having some issues with the audio, but I'm actually not sure what. Like, it's the same configuration, but okay. Like, it seems like yeah, it could be the production filter to address it. Let me check it out. I just reduced the noise reduction filter that I have. Please let me know if the transmission is too noisy, because I mean I know that my CPU has a lot of noise. So I'll check like the parameter. Maybe here is better. I'm checking the chat so I know if, to find if it is like on the right one. Well, I will leave it on the next one. Just try to be closer to a microphone. Okay, so let's talk about this feature. The second parameter that I was talking about was the required occupancy for the FK system start. That depends on another network parameter. That parameter is default. So if we Okay. Uh, we can select here. By the way, if this has a default value of -1. It means that you don't have a limit of default slots on the server, but you can set a different value. Like I mentioned, I could have default slots set to 60, and the result is that once you have 12 players connected, the system will stop. For example, I can use again a really small value and I will keep because I have the normal players connected. So that's basically how this feature works. Once again, let us know what you think about this feature. What if you think it's too confusing, if you think the naming is not clear, if you think that there is something that is missing that you'd like to have control over, let us know. Now, let's talk about the last feature that I wanted to mention. It is something more visual. I worked a while ago on, on changing how the property looks when you are going to claim a spot. So I don't know if you remember, I mean, people that have been playing for a while can remember probably. But when, for example, you were going to place a house, the terrain around that you are going to claim would look different. Uh, Now this is how it looks. It's different. Now it's like what happened before is that it was tinted the sound that we were going to claim. Now what happened is that the actual texture that we have there is replaced. So I'll go to a place that we have like a lot of texture, like here, and we see that we have like the green texture for the green for the leaves and the texture for the earth, but it's completely gone once I want to claim something. Then it just takes the texture is replaced by a hue that is based on the selection color, and it should be way easier to see that the place that you want to claim is a viable or not a viable. And also with big series, it would used to be a problem because when you active the property claiming mode, it would be like so much information that it would be hard to see. So I'm going to go where I have already a property to display how it looks. I have one here. I don't know if I'm not really good with positioning, like in real life and on the games. It's in an issue that happens in bot. But yeah, it seems like I'm really close. So for example here, it will take a moment to load because I am on developer mode and I come like extremely fast with the flying. But basically what we have here is that we will see a different hue for the properties that are claimed than it was before, and I'll see a red color when it's a property that I can claim, because I mean this terrain belongs to someone else, so I can really place something here. But if I can place something here, I can see it. I'm going to place something here, and I'm going to get an a tool just to show that it will also be affected by the effect. You can always go to minimap or layers, activate the properties and overlay in main view. When you do this, then you will see the shader all the time. So I can see here, this is my property and this is the other property. I can see actually my axis here is blue, I am in my property, and now it's green, I am in a different property. But yeah, the idea is that this shader was updated, trying to make it easier to understand but also easier to see, because even when I am on the inside the building or inside like a lot of buildings, I still can see the terrain. Here we have, like, being a little more technical, here we have two things that are happening. The hue is being replaced, like the texture is replaced by the hue that we want to use, but also I added the outlines. So the outlines of each object are added, like a white outline. It's really subtle, but for example, here we can see on the flowers that they have like these outlines. It's the same here with the leaves, and that's to make easier for you to walk while you have this active. That's the feature, the last feature that I wanted to talk about. Um, And now it's time for to hear Jordan. So, Jordan, are you ready?
Yes. 1 second. Let's do this.
Yeah, it
Should be
seems like.
sharing the screen. Okay. So I mostly do things like our account server and things of that nature, the play.eco. However, another thing that I also participate in is more of the technical like tests and experiments, and this is one of them. Um for a while people have noticed that the trucks on the main menu are a completely different color than the rest of the game. And I went through the effort of actually seeing if we could bring the idea of recoloring trucks or really anything in eco to actual gameplay mechanics. And this is the start of that. This is an initial idea of being able to change any color you want. And there's also a second demo, which is a little more complicated. It pardon the lines here because this is not a perfect texture. But if you can actually independently pick what you would want to show on the truck. Now, keep in mind, obviously, this is still an idea, an experiment. You may not necessarily see this in an upcoming release, or if you will, likely not in the near future because other things take priority. However, if this is something people are interested in, we would be more than willing to probably look into it more than we are at the moment. I'm so not used to being on camera. uh, yeah, I don't really have too much to show with that. It's just a little tech demo. Um, uh, I don't know if anyone has any questions about this. This obviously, I believe we're taking questions at the end, but
Yeah, no,
um,
it's fine. I mean, this actually concludes the feature that we were displaying. I think it's a nice feature to be able to modify the color of some more objects. So I think that as you were saying that yeah, we have time to take some questions, to hear comments about what would you like to see on the next streams. I'll be I'll be checking the chats.
oh, I see the colored vehicles mod came up. So the colored vehicles mod is well, the original one it's duplicating the trucks. It's not all the same truck. So there's one for each color. I think Kai has one that does it a little differently. The idea with this is it's one truck, so it's a lot easier to manage, and it's also moddable. That's the other thing I forgot to mention. Although my anxiety dropped a little bit. Um, so in theory, by having an ecosystem of these colorable objects, is we would likely do more than just trucks. You would be able to pick whatever color you wanted, as well as possibly mod in more colors depending on how we did the coloring mechanic, which is still to be determined. That's a little bit different than how the mod does it.
I see. There is another question, Jordan, that I don't know if you can check the chat. Will the coloring work also on building blocks?
This one, no. That is something that has been talked about. Uh, a little more challenging because obviously we want eco to run well. And the more things you start throwing in there, the more problems you may start having. So a lot of thought has to go into it prior to just adding color.
Okay, okay. I see another question that is that when will we see votes? So yeah, the idea is that you will actually have votes on the next version, on the Eco 10 version. that's the idea. I mean, we still have to run the internal test to make sure that everything works as expected. And I would like for people that were waiting to see boats to understand that there is a lot of implications there. I mean, not only is about the technical issue of creating the boat, the model, and the coding, but also to set a gameplay where boats are actually useful, where they are worked. I mean, if you can swim, why do you want a boat? What? Why? How do you change, or how do we update the gameplay to make them something really useful, something that people want to use, and also something that is not an exploit? Because as you can imagine with every plane that you have played, sometimes there are exploits that when there are some updates or modifications, and that's really complicated. But the good thing is that one of our next streams will be with Jens. He will be talking about bots and gameplay. So yeah, if you're interested, we make sure to be on that stream. I don't know if you have. Oh, sorry, Jordan. Go ahead.
See, I actually I might have a question for the community because while I have the colored thing up, I see one of the chats here. Someone is talking about 3 channels only. There actually is an experimental I can't demo it, but there's an experimental version that takes more colors, and I wanted if that's something people would be interested in, obviously let us know. Because this one, it's 3 colors, and then whatever the artist has decided the rest of the object should look like. But you could see how that looks down here. There's a red, green, and blue. However, we can technically do more. It becomes a little less modder friendly, but more can be done if you would want that really deep level of customization. Obviously, that is a feedback thing. Let us know in like the Discord what you would think of that. But yeah,
Oh, I forgot to unmute me. I'm sorry. So thanks, Jordan. I think that having more control would be nice, but yeah, I imagine that would be more complicated. I don't know if some of our players are familiar of the 3D modeling process, what is an UV map, and I mean it's not that user friendly, but it would be cool to have some really different options to do more modifications. So yeah, let us know on the chat. Um, we also will have some streams with artists, so maybe if you have some more artist related question on comments, be sure that we're going to have part of the artist team here on the streams, and you'll have the chance to talk with them too. And yeah, and I see another question, if the stream will be weekly. Yeah, the idea is that every Friday at this time, I mean it's 3 p.m. here in Colombia, but yeah, it's different time zones, of course. We'll have a stream with a different guest based on basically the feedback that we get from the stream. So for this first stream, we have Jordan that has a lot of experience in modeling. If you would like to know more about modeling, you can also let us know, and we can talk to Jordan again, like to see if he's interested in coming again with us. And if you are more interested in gameplay, we also have people for that, artists, audio. We of course need to validate with the team and the time zones, etc. But yeah, we are really happy with the idea of doing the streams every week now. Do we have more questions maybe or comments? I'll check the chat again. Oh yeah, there is a question about composting and forming update. So yeah, we're definitely working on that. There is a lot of updates that we are planning for the forming, and we will try to talk more about that in the future. But yeah, some features are like so complex that they'll have their own stream about it. So yeah, that'll be all. I'll finish the stream now. Thank you everyone for coming. I'll check the chat and with the team so we can be sure to read all the questions that you may have. If you want to contact me directly on Discord, you can find me on Discord like Gio. Here is my my ID on the screen actually. So yeah, feel free to contact me. That would be all. Thank you everyone. Bye bye.